I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. We are going to be talking about a lot of light on today's Starborn show, because the title of tonight's show is A Great Awakening. And that is because on Saturday, this coming Saturday, we are going to have a full moon at 17 degrees of Aquarius. And Aquarius rules the future, and the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And Uranus, the name for that planet, since it rules sudden surprising change, is the Great Awakener. And so I think that's what's going to be happening to us. And that is for a variety of reasons. And it simply means that under this full moon in Aquarius, it will represent either victory or defeat, one or the other. And so I'm going to explain to you your different options under this full moon in Aquarius. And that is because this full moon is part of a grand trine in the air signs. Last week we had another grand trine in the air signs, but this grand trine next on Saturday is far stronger because some of the planets have changed. And so what we have is we have the full moon at 17 degrees of Aquarius, and we have Pluto in the sign as well at 2 degrees, and it's retrograde. And these two planets are trining Mars, which has just moved into Libra. Mars isn't too happy in Libra because Libra is a sign ruled by Venus, and Mars is a sort of an energetic, aggressive, go-getter planet. But Mars is also at 2 degrees. It is exactly trining that Pluto in Aquarius under the full moon on Saturday, also at 2 degrees. Mars and Pluto are the rulers of Scorpio, and it is a fixed financial sign. There isn't anything in the sign of Scorpio, but its rulers are beautifully trining each other exactly right now. And these three planets, the full moon in Aquarius and Pluto and Mars in Libra, are all being trined by a fourth planet, Uranus, that great awakener planet, that is now in Gemini at the 1st degree of Gemini. And so it's at 1 degree, it's closely trining Mars in Libra at 2 degrees, it's closely trining Pluto at 2 degrees in Aquarius, and it's trining the full moon in Aquarius as well. And so that simply means, since Mars and Pluto are involved, and it rules Scorpio, a fixed financial sign, it means that there can be some additional funding around or financing around, possibly for a project involving young people or people in the community that can be a little bit ahead of its time. It can be involving things that people are inventing or thinking of that can benefit a lot of communities. And the reason why the community idea is coming up is because that's what Gemini rules. It rules our neighborhoods and our communities. And it rules short-term or temporary projects. It rules good communication skills. All of those things are highlighted right now. So that's sort of looking like a victory for some people who have a lot of vision. That's what Uranus rules, is vision, the ability to see into the future. And so those people with vision might get some additional funding to benefit communities in one way or another. So that would be great. And the information would be flowing quite easily right now among the air signs, because there is a grand trine there, but it's a more powerful grand trine than last week's was. Then we come into a second thing that definitely indicates victory. And this is so unusual that the opening may take a little longer this week, because I've got to explain to you a once-in-a-lifetime magic thing that's happening right now, which is why the show is called A Great Awakening. And it is that on Saturday, Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer, is going to be at the 13th degree of Cancer, which is the exact degree of America's sun sign. In July 4th, 1776, the sun was at 13 degrees of Cancer. And so Jupiter, an exalted Jupiter, is going to be right there on that exact critical degree. But for the first time this century, there's another planet that's going to be conjuncting Jupiter there, and it is Venus. Venus has moved out of Gemini, where it was last week at the 29th degree of Fate, and now it is at 11 degrees of Cancer on Saturday, this coming Saturday. So it's within a 2-degree orb of being an exact conjunction. So it is a tight conjunction with the exalted Jupiter in Cancer. And this sets up something that we have never seen this century. First of all, it's the conjunction of Venus and Jupiter. That hasn't happened before in Cancer. And the reason why is that the speeds of these two planets are so different. Jupiter takes 12 years to get us around a chart once. And Venus is a little speedster. It takes 8 months to get around a chart once. So it moves much faster than Jupiter does. And so I looked back to see if this had, the last time this had happened, a Venus-Jupiter conjunction, which is the best you can get because those are the two best planets in the heavens. And they were conjuncting at the critical degree exactly on America's sun. But I looked back 12 years ago to 2013 when Jupiter was also in Cancer, but Venus wasn't there. Venus, because it's such a speedy planet, it had moved on. It was way ahead of Jupiter, so it wasn't there. Then I looked back another 12 years to 2001, and Jupiter was in Cancer in 2001, but once again, Venus wasn't there. It had moved much further ahead of that Jupiter. It wasn't in Cancer at all. And so it didn't happen in 2013, it didn't happen in 2001, but it's happening Saturday. For the first time this century, some magical, I would call it magic, that this thing is happening, and it's setting up something that is so unusual. I don't think we may have seen this in America's history. I don't know, because I didn't look back that far. But what it's really setting up is that all 3 lights in America's chart, and all of us have the same 3 lights in our chart. We have a sun sign, we have a moon sign, and we have an ascendant, which is our own special star. And that's the point that the sun was coming right over the horizon at the exact date, time, and place when you were born. That's what, it's a mathematical calculation, and that's what makes your own special star the ascendant. Well, this whole thing is setting up America's, this full moon in Aquarius, boy, it's working overtime. That's why I think it's a magic full moon, because of this wonderful conjunction that hasn't happened yet. And we're 25 years into this century, and Jupiter has never been conjuncted by Venus, sitting right at that 13th degree in Cancer. It hasn't happened before, but it's going to happen on Saturday. It's happening right now, actually. I mean, Venus is a fast mover. It's going to be at 11 degrees on Saturday. Well, it's still close to Jupiter right now. But what else is going on is amazing. And it is that, remember I said that Uranus was at 1 degree of Gemini, and it's trining the full moon and Pluto in Aquarius, and it's also trining that Mars at 2 degrees in Libra. But Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for 83 years. And the reason why is that it spent 6 years just in Taurus, and then it's moved forward into that 1 degree of Gemini. And it isn't going to stay in Gemini. By fall, it'll move back into Taurus for the last time for a year. And then it will come into Gemini in 2026 and be there for 7 years. But it's at 1 degree right now in Gemini. And Uranus is called the Great Awakener because it rules Aquarius, and Aquarius rules things that are ahead of their time. And it rules flight, it rules space, it rules invention, it rules music, it rules electricity, anything that goes through the air. And it rules vision, the kind of vision that people have that invent things that nobody else can see, and they try pretty hard to make them work because Aquarius is a fixed sign. So anyway, Uranus 83 years ago was also at 1 degree of Gemini, where it is now and where it's going to be on Saturday. And 83 years ago, in 1942, at the exact same place, Uranus was at 1 degree of Gemini then. I looked it up, and that is when we won the Battle of Midway. And that's what turned the tide in the war in the Pacific for America. And so Uranus really is the great awakener. It really woke up a lot of people when we actually won the Battle of Midway. How did that happen? I mean, you know, when you have people with vision, you don't exactly, they're a little different. They could be eccentric. They could be sort of following their own path and their own way of thinking. It's a little hard to figure them out. But what had happened and why they won the Battle of Midway, and it turned the tide in World War II for America in its war in the Pacific, is that when Pearl Harbor was bombed, you know, it put a few people out of work and a lot of people died. And so some of the people that it put out of work then were people who had been playing in bands. And, you know, they'd been making music. Well, that's what Aquarius rules. That was a nice way to spend your time in Hawaii before Pearl Harbor was bombed. But the head of intelligence after Pearl Harbor was bombed knew that all these band members were out of work, and they got hired by the head of that intelligence group. And the reason why is the head of the intelligence group said, you know, band members are dealing with music with different beats and different sounds. They may be able to be good code breakers. And they did turn out to be good code breakers, and the reason we won the battle in Midway is that we'd broken the code, and we knew we were prepared for it, and that's why we won. And so that's just an example of something very unusual, and how that Uranus works. And now, 83 years later, it's at the same degree, the first degree of Gemini. Okay. But planets conjunct when they are within a 7-degree orb or even closer. And the exact rising sign of America's chart, its own special star, its ascendant, is 7 degrees of Gemini. So the Uranus that's up there right now is actually conjuncting America's rising sign at 7 degrees of Gemini. The ancient wise men, when they were setting up and trying to figure out, okay, there's 360 degrees in a chart because it's a circle, and what do all these degrees mean? Well, they came up with the meaning for 359 of those degrees, but not the 7th degree of Gemini. They said it's a degree of mystery. We don't know the meaning of that degree. 7 is the number of mystery. It's one of the numbers of Pisces, actually. And so they said there was no meaning to the 7th degree of Gemini. This explains, to this day, why Americans don't all understand each other, and the world doesn't understand us either, because our rising sign is 7 degrees of Gemini. And now Uranus is actually within a 6-degree orb of the conjunction with, so it is starting to conjunct America's rising sign. So we've got America's sun being conjuncted by an exalted Jupiter and Venus there for the first time this century. We've got Uranus conjuncting America's rising sign in Gemini, and on Saturday the full moon is in Aquarius, and America's moon, its third light, is in Aquarius. And so we've got all the 3 lights of America's chart being highlighted at the same time. That's why I called the show The Great Awakening. Because whatever's coming down the pike for America, watch out, world, here we come. And what I think it also means, because the full moon is in Aquarius, and that rules things ahead of their time, and it rules space, it certainly rules drones, and the 2 rulers of Scorpio, which rules war, Mars and Pluto, are in perfect trine to each other. There could be some funding for advanced research involving flight or space or drone technology in some way. And I would say that America is working on things that we don't know anything about right now. But they're working on it. You know, it takes a little while to develop something. So I think that's what America's doing, but I couldn't tell you what it was. And so that is what is making this a great awakening for so many people. The very favorable planets that are very strong in the grand trine in the air signs, and then this wonderful magic conjunction of Venus and Jupiter, which has never happened before this century in Cancer, and it's right on America's sun at the critical 13th degree. And then America's lights in its natal chart are all being highlighted then. How often would that ever happen? But it is happening this Saturday when the full moon goes into Aquarius. And so I thought I would let you know some possibilities of what could be a great awakening for you. You could sort of be thinking about that a little bit better. But on the other hand, problems exist. And we're going to have to look at these problems as well. Because remember I said that I think that this full moon represents either victory, and we've been talking about how that could happen, or defeat. And so the defeat part is coming from the problems that we need to be anticipating. And that's because there are 5 planets that are in a harsh T-cross among the cardinal signs. Well, Cancer is a cardinal sign. So the 5 planets are the Jupiter and the Venus in Cancer, and they are being squared by Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which are at 2 degrees, and they're both retrograde, and they're also being squared by that Mars in Libra, also at 2 degrees, because Aries and Libra are cardinal signs as well. And there isn't anything in Capricorn, the 4th cardinal sign. And so under a harsh T-cross like this, you'd think America was in big trouble. And I want to explain to you why it's not. It isn't just the tremendous once-in-a-century aspects that are occurring for America right now. It's that there's other things going on, and that's why we need to dig a little bit deeper right now into what's really going on among those planets under that full moon on Saturday. So I mentioned that Mars is at 2 degrees of Libra, and it is actually exactly opposing Saturn and Neptune at 2 degrees in Aries. Well, Mars rules Aries, and it's opposing the sign it rules. So that's not very good, particularly for new beginnings. And then Saturn and Neptune are both retrograde, and that retrograde planets are weaker, and they're at 2 degrees. And so these 3 planets, which by themselves are squaring the 2 planets in Cancer, which are the real good ones right now, these 3 planets, all at the same degree, and with the force of a direct Mars coming up against these 2 retrograde planets, which are weaker, they're in an opposition, and the oppositions always represent separations, because they're 180 degrees apart. They have no real effect on each other, except what is happening is that these 3 planets are canceling each other out. They're just canceling each other out. And the strong one is Mars, which is in the grand trine in the air signs. They are not having an effect, even though they are squaring Venus and Jupiter in Cancer. By themselves, they've canceled each other out. They're all at 2 degrees. Mars is the strong one. It's facing Saturn, which is another malefic planet, but that's weaker, and Neptune is there. And Neptune can rule dreams, but it can rule kidding yourself too. And so somebody who has wanted to make a new beginning, maybe even 2 of them, because there's 2 planets in Aries, whatever they were hoping for is going to be canceled out. And that's a problem that we have to understand exists. Because somebody else is going to come along and say, no, that's not what I want, or no, that's not what we're going to do. And their no is a true no. They really mean it. That Mars is strong. It may be opposing the sign it rules Aries, but it's trining Pluto, the co-ruler of Scorpio, and they're all being trined by another malefic planet, Uranus, in Gemini. So those planets are canceling each other out. And so that simply means that 2 new beginnings at least, or it could be 2 false starts that you've made or I've made this year, they're down the tubes now. There is no resurrection of those. They're done for. And then there's another opposition that involves planets that are canceling each other out. This is an easier one to understand because it involves the full moon in Aquarius. And because Aquarius is, the full moon on Saturday is at 17 degrees of Aquarius, then that means that the sun is at 17 degrees of Leo. Because a full moon always means that the 2 lights are opposing each other, and that indicates not just a separation, but indecision and confusion as well. Well, remember I said there's more planets than that in Aquarius. Pluto is in Aquarius too, and it's at 2 degrees and it's retrograde. And Mercury is in Leo, and it has retrograded, because it's retrograded clear back to 4 degrees of Leo. So the sun and the moon are canceling each other out, and Pluto and the retrograde Mercury in Leo are also canceling each other out, because Pluto's at 2 degrees in retrograde, Mercury is at 4 degrees in retrograde. That's a pretty close opposition. All 4 of these planets in Leo and in Aquarius are all opposing each other almost exactly. The sun and the moon are exact. So they cancel each other out. So what in the world is left? You know, if all these planets are canceling each other out from oppositions, there is one planet right now where nothing is bothering it. And that's because it's in a mutable sign, and that is Uranus in Gemini. There's nothing in Pisces, there's nothing in Sagittarius, there's nothing in Virgo anymore. Nothing is squaring or opposing Uranus in Gemini, which is conjuncting America's ascendant at 7 degrees of Gemini, which is also in the grand trine of the air signs, trining Mars. That's 2 fierce planets, both known for speed, but they're in good aspect to each other, and it's trining the full moon and Pluto in Aquarius. And so that's why there is a great awakening, because the only planet that has no harsh aspects to it at all is the great awakener, Uranus. And where is Uranus? It's in Gemini, standing alone, doing a great job all on its own, not being bothered by anything, and it is backing up that Jupiter and Venus in Cancer. It's right behind them. And it is completely unimpeded by anything. It's strong, and it's on America's ascendant anyway, but it is right behind that Jupiter and Venus. You might even call that protection in a way. And that is why this is a magical time. There is a great awakening, and there are problems to watch out for, cancellations of new ideas or new things that people want to do that aren't going to work out. The people are going to say no. That Mars in Libra is opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which rules new beginnings, and it's backed up, and they are too, by the planets in Leo, and they're both canceled out. All the planets in Leo are being canceled out by the full moon and Pluto in Aquarius, and the planets Saturn and Neptune in Aries are being canceled out by the force of that Mars in Libra. So there is a great awakening now. I'm sorry this is so long. Believe it or not, I'm going as fast as I can, and it's just very important. I wish I had my website still. I don't know where that went to, but this actually takes writing it down. I have it in my script, but the script is memorized. I wish more people could see this and understand this. So what does that mean to all 12 of the sun signs right now? This victory or defeat because of a great awakening? Well, Aries, for you, what it means is that I think you need to go back to the drawing board, Aries, because you could be all fired up and enthusiastic about something, and yet the only 2 planets that are in your sign are Saturn and Neptune, and they are both retrograde, and they are all being opposed by a very powerful Mars in Libra, but Mars rules Aries. It's opposing the sign it rules. There is at least one separation that's going to occur in your life, Aries, possibly 2. And I don't know if that's job related, or I don't know if that's a personal relationship that you have, or if it's a plan, something, even a planned vacation. It might be canceled now, Aries. And so it could be for all kinds of reasons, but I think that since Mars is in Libra, and Libra rules partnership, and it rules legal things, it rules contracts and business agreements and stuff like that, there is the possibility that people who have money are wanting to spend it more, not on the status quo, but on some new things that they want to develop, or that people are talking about, or that they want to, it could be experimental, but maybe they're a little bit more interested in putting their money into something new and giving it a try right now because of the grand trine in the air signs. So if you are looking for 1 cancellation or 2 cancellations, I don't think you're going to have to look too far, Aries. I think it's going to happen, or both of them will. And yet don't be disappointed by that. just think that that is going to give you a chance to go back to the drawing board and possibly think of something new that you want to do a little bit more on your own without partners. That's highly advisable right now since Mars is opposing your sun sign. And that means there's other people that are a little bit mad right now, or they're a little upset about something, and whether they're upset with you or whether they're upset with a financial condition, they're still upset either way, and that Mars is opposing your sun. And it's so well backed up that I think that you should prepare to go in a new direction by yourself, Aries. And there's nothing wrong with that. Aries loves to make new beginnings, and they're awfully good at that. Aries is better at making a new beginning. It is not a finishing sign. So their energy is always spent on getting something off the ground and getting it going. And that's where you excel. And so Aries, just look forward, not backward. And your future will be bright. Maybe you'll have a great awakening. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Taurus. Well, Taurus, this is simply a time when I think that you've got to be a little bit careful what you do. And that is because that full moon on Saturday in Aquarius, along with Pluto, which is retrograde, square your sun, and the sun in Leo, and Mercury, which is retrograde in Leo, are also squaring your sun. And there's nothing in your sun sign, and there's nothing in Scorpio, so that you're not facing an opposition, Taurus, but you're facing a square of 4 planets in total to your sun sign, and it involves the lights, the moon in Aquarius, sun in Leo. So I think that even if your life had been sort of coasting along, and you started doing your job or doing whatever you want to do, Taurus, I think that this is a time, since there are no planets in Earth signs now at all, nothing in your sign, there's nothing in Virgo, and there's nothing in Capricorn. This is just a time, first of all, I would suggest that you take a rest. You may as well, because there are people with conflicting opinions, and I don't think they're willing to listen to you no matter what you say, Taurus. I mean, Taurus is a smart sign, but there could be a property or an investment matter that is not going to your liking, and no matter who you talk to, they don't agree with what you're saying either. So you could be stymied or stonewalled by people right now. And I don't think that's going to change because there's no support in the earth signs at all. There's just nothing there. And so people have their mind on the future. That's what that full moon in Aquarius rules. Aquarius rules the future. And I think that's probably, even though the full moon and Pluto square your sun, and so do the sun and Mercury and Leo, I think it's a good time for you to take stock of where you are right now, Taurus. You could say, okay, how are my finances doing? What are my plans for the future? What are my responsibilities here? You could sort of take an overview of your life everywhere. And this may be a good time for you to sort of make an appraisal, a somewhat non-judgmental appraisal of what you are doing and what your plans are, and even what your health and your energy level is. Because what you would, in this appraisal, you would want to find out what is lacking or what is missing or what is below par. And this is a good time to do it because there isn't anything in earth signs, and so something is below par in your life, Taurus. Something's not giving you any satisfaction, or it's not worth what you've been doing before, or the investments have fallen, or I don't know what it is, Taurus, but it's a better time for you to step back and reappraise your intentions going forward and realize that you are probably looking at some sort of a defeat. It may just be in your health, which maybe you need to work on a little bit closer, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Oh, Gemini, you have Uranus in your sign now. Venus has moved on. Remember last week it was at the 29th degree of your sign, meaning that a contract or some business matter or some love affair, whatever, was either on or over. And because Mars in Virgo was squaring that Venus and had been for weeks, it looks to me like something was over for you, Gemini. But now the great Awakener, Uranus, is the only planet in your sign. It's at 1 degree, exactly where it was in 1942 in June when America won the Battle of Midway, because a bunch of bad players were able to break the code of the enemy. That's unusual, but it's sort of typical American way of doing things, just sort of getting in there and trying anything. And so, Gemini, this is a time with this grand trine that is occurring among the air signs right now, that Uranus in your sign, which is the great awakener, Gemini, is probably going to wake you up in one way or another and really help blast you off into the future. And the reason why is that there's a grand trine in the air signs. And Uranus is a malefic planet, but it is also the planet of genius. It's a planet of people with vision. It's trining the sign it rules, Aquarius. That's the first time it's done that in 83 years. I mean, in 20 years. It's the first time he's done that in 20 years in a trine. And so, with the full moon and Pluto trining Uranus in your sign, and Mars in Libra also trining Uranus in your sign, and Uranus and Libra and Mars are two malefic planets. If you had any troublesome problem in your life right now, Gemini, it's going to get solved one way or another. I guarantee you it will, because either you'll be thinking sort of ahead of what you want to do, or you'll be thinking of a new project or something like that, because Uranus is in your sun sign. But you could also be very close to whatever the goals are for America, and we all live here. And so you could be concerned with what else is happening, particularly in your community. Because remember, I told you with that grand trine in the air signs, there is the possibility that there can be some good money around or some kind of funding. Remember, Mars is trining Pluto, and those are the rulers of Scorpio, but they're in air signs trining each other exactly. Mars is at 2 degrees and Pluto is at 2 degrees. Uranus in your sign is at 1 degree. Perfect grand trine. And so, Gemini, something's going to wake you up. Something is going to happen that almost either could be magic or miraculous, or just out of the blue, a genius idea is going to come to you, Gemini. Or it could be suggested by someone else who says, you know, we think you're the right person for doing this. How would you like to do it? And we'll pay you. That would be nice. So, one way or another, there could be some more money coming your way, Gemini, because the rulers of Scorpio are both trining your sun. Exactly. And Uranus in your sun sign. So there could be some more money coming your way, or you could be getting ready to embark on a future project that is probably going to work out quite well. And if it requires more money, somehow the money will be there. So good luck, Gemini. You have a lot to look forward to right now, because Uranus is the only planet of all of them that has nothing challenging it at all. So there's actually nothing stopping you, Gemini, except whatever doubts you have. This is not the time to have doubts. This is the time to look forward and have hope and keep going. So I hope you do that, Gemini. It's a golden time for you. And that's because Uranus is backing up Venus and Jupiter in Cancer, which are right in front of your sun sign. Pretty nice place to have those. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Oh, Cancer. This is a time, Cancer, which I would have to describe as pure magic for you. And that's because on Saturday, when the full moon hits in Aquarius at 17 degrees, along with Pluto there, it will activate the moon sign in America's chart, which is, America has the moon in Aquarius. But also, it simply means, Cancer, that Venus will be within 2 degrees. It will be at 11 degrees in your sign, conjuncting Jupiter at the critical 13th degree, which is exactly America's sun sign degree. And Venus is already there. It's moving even closer and closer to Jupiter. A Venus-Jupiter conjunction is the sign of a good marriage tie. And so, Cancer, if you were thinking of getting married, this would be a good time to do it. But it would be to somebody who was an absolute ideal person, and also could be a little bit unusual behind the scenes. And that's because Uranus, the only planet that has no bad aspects to it all, is in Gemini right behind your sun sign, just shining. It's in perfect position because it's part of the grand trine in the air signs, but nothing's bothering it. And that planet of vision and genius, is backing up your sign, Cancer. And you have this first time in this century that Venus has conjuncted Jupiter in your own sign. Because Jupiter was in your sign in 2013, but Venus wasn't. And Jupiter was in your sign in 2001, but Venus wasn't. And this time it is. And Cancer, you are looking at either your heart's desire or something that you really want to do. And I don't see anything stopping you. Even though, okay, Mars in Libra is squaring your sun, and Saturn and Neptune, and it's at 2 degrees. Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, and they're squaring your sun, which means you may have already been through at least 2 false starts this year. And they could be related to years past, but sometime this year already, you could have realized that you made 2 false starts. And it could become glaringly apparent at the moment, and yet they're not hurting your future prospects at all. They aren't even hurting you today, Cancer. And the reason why is that Mars is also at 2 degrees in Libra. Sure, it's squaring Venus and Jupiter in your sign, but actually what it's doing is that Saturn and Neptune are canceling in out because they're at 2 degrees and retrograde, so they're a little weaker. Even 2 against 1 is not really having any kind of effect except to cancel out what Mars wants to do. And Mars is canceling out Neptune and Saturn because they're all at the same degree. They're all 180 degrees apart from each other. No connection. So they cancel each other out. And that means they might be squaring Venus and Jupiter in your sign, but they're not touching it. And Uranus is in Gemini right behind your sun sign, really telling you in some way or another, go forward in your future, Cancer. And your future's backing you up. Whatever you want to do in your future, it's backing you up. That's what Uranus is. It's a future planet. And it's completely unopposed. And it's not squared, nothing wrong with that Uranus. So Cancer, you have a once this century opportunity to make a fond dream come true. And it's got to be your fondest one, not second best. And it can't have anything to do with the false starts or the failures you've had in the past, Cancer. It's like this is a magic time when somebody is going to wave their magic wand and say, now it's your turn for happiness. It's your turn to be fulfilled. It's going to happen, Cancer. And you know, yours is a cardinal sign. Okay? And so, you know, you're always thinking what's right and what's wrong. And this is a time when you better not let anything stop you, Cancer. You need to go forward in your future. And why is that? Because happiness awaits you. Success awaits you. You can't dally. Do it while these planets are, you know, this is the only time this whole century that these planets of Venus and Jupiter have been conjuncting, and Jupiter's at a critical degree. It's not just America's sun sign that it's hitting, it's at a critical degree, which multiplies the goodness of Jupiter, which is already exalted. Do you see what I mean? Something that's you know is right for you, Cancer, you got to do. And it isn't just right because of something in your past, a pro or con. It's because your heart is telling you it's right. And you know it. And this is the first time this century that boy, you should listen to that. You need to go forward. Your happiness for the rest of your life depends on you going forward and listening to your heart and doing what you know you want to do. Not what other people want you to do, but what you want to do. What you know is right for you. You could call it magic if you want. I would call it perfect. How often do you get a chance at that, Cancer? This is your time. So you go right ahead. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, as I explained before, Leo, even though there are 4 planets in the fire signs and they're trining each other, you know, they're all getting canceled out. Not because of the trine, but the trine isn't very effective when Neptune and Saturn in Aries, which are trining the Sun and Mercury in your sign, they're getting canceled out by a fierce opposition from Mars in Libra. Okay, so they're not doing you much good, Leo. And then the Sun and retrograde Mercury in your sign are getting canceled out by the full moon on Saturday, because always under a full moon, the moon opposes the Sun exactly. So the moon will be at 17 degrees in Aquarius, and it'll be opposing the Sun in your sign also at 17 degrees. But the cancellation is complete because Pluto is at 2 degrees and retrograde in Aquarius, and Mercury is at 4 degrees, very close, and retrograde in your sign, and they're canceling each other out too. So where does that leave you, Leo? It leaves you facing the fact that there's at least 2 false starts that have occurred this year or in the past, and you better walk away from those, Leo. They're not going to get any better. They're not going to get revived. They're not going to get redone. You can't put a new face on them. They just are not good enough, or they don't suit you. Or it can be, since there are no planets in the earth signs, it can be that you are feeling a little bit more under par than people realize. Maybe people don't know that you have some health problems, but you could have, Leo. And you could just think, well, I won't look at my failures. I'll just start something new because there's planets in Aries trining my Sun. Well, those planets are getting nullified because they're getting canceled out by that Mars in Libra. Mars rules Aries, so that's no good. And so, Leo, you got to start over. But this time you have to do it. You have to do it with the realization that there could be. If you would sort of settle down a little bit and count your blessings and look through your life right now, Leo, at what you already have, you could be pretty happy with that. And so why risk anything else? And so you could be pretty happy with where you are in life, or how much money you've made, or well, what your professional level is. You could be happy with that. Could you duplicate it now? No, you couldn't. That's what I mean by it's better if you to sit back and count your blessings right now and be thankful for what you have, Leo, and not try anything new right now. I don't think it's going to work, and you may not have the energy to do it. And on top of that, Leo, I don't see whatever you want to try, I do not see it being well accepted. Because Saturn and Neptune, they're trining your Sun, but they're canceled out by that Mars in Libra. There's some contract that you were expecting would or business or legal arrangement that you were expecting was going to go your way, and it isn't really quite going to go your way, Leo. It'll get canceled out in one way, or cut down in one way or another. And so if you could step back and count your blessings and say, okay, at the age I am now, well, what do I have to be thankful for? Well, write it down, Leo. You can make a long list. You have a lot to be thankful for. You know, on the road of life, you've come a long way. And you have been successful. What's wrong with that? And so if you are feeling a little under par, or you're feeling a little bit low about certain things that you don't have your way, just stop looking at those and look at what you do have and be grateful for that, because you would have earned it, or there could just be blessings in your life that if you counted them a little bit more, you could be pretty proud of yourself and happy with that. And that in itself is a victory. So if you face a defeat outwardly, you may be a little happier with the victories that you have achieved already if you just stop and think about them and be glad for that instead. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time with no planets in the earth signs, that could be a very quiet time for you. And yet, it doesn't mean you're not doing anything, Virgo. It just means that this could be a quiet time where you are more or less taking stock of what you're doing right now. And you may not be wanting to feel too active at anything, since there are no planets supporting your sun sign at all. There's nothing in your sun sign, and there's nothing in Taurus or Capricorn trining your sun sign either. And so if you too could pay a little bit more attention even to some sort of self-inflicted health ailment that you have. There's one that's common to a lot of people, including me, and it's that, you can, your sign rules nutrition and diet, but I know I'm a cookie monster, and so I like cookies with my tea, and that can put on weight. And so this could be a time when you can sit down and look at your health condition and decide, well, okay, maybe I could improve it a little bit just by myself, just sort of doing a few things that are right, or exercising more, or something like that. And what's wrong with self-improvement, Virgo? That is something that your sign rules. And so the same thing on your job. Virgo rules our jobs, and it rules our mental and our physical health. Is there a way that you could improve that too? Could you be a little bit more efficient with your job? Or could you find a new way to do something that would suit you a little bit better? Maybe you could, if you just tried something. Uranus in Gemini is squaring your sun, and it is beautifully aspected. There's nothing squaring that Uranus, but it is squaring your sun, Virgo. And so there can be sudden, surprising changes that occur in your neighborhood or in your life, and they could upset you a little bit right now. And Virgos worry about things, and they get a little bit nervous. Your sign rules the whole central nervous system. And so you do have to be a little bit more careful in your reactions to other people right now. You don't need to overdo it, Virgo. It wouldn't do you any good. And on top of that, maybe you should just practice being a little bit more calm, trying to do things that calm you down. And that would probably be enough for right now. And maybe while you're trying to calm yourself down, there could even be some great awakening that comes to you. Who knows? But I think if you were thinking that this was a quiet time in your life, I would say take advantage of it, Virgo, because your sign does rule self-improvement. And there might be a little something you need to work on. This would be a great time to do it quietly. All right, what does it mean to a Libra? Oh, Libra, Mars is in your sign. Woo, it's at 2 degrees. It's going to be in your sign for a while, Libra. So you have to be a little bit careful because Mars is a malefic planet. Your sign rules peace, and it rules legal agreements or truces, and it rules compromise and diplomacy and beauty and art. That isn't what Mars rules, and it's in your sign. So there can be some partnerships, because your sign rules partnerships, Libra, that are very upsetting to you right now. And Mars is a planet of anger, and you could be pretty mad about something right now. Libra's nature is not to be mad. They like peace. They like just rolling along with the group, having a good time. Being pleasant and charming to everybody, but you're going to be running into some problems that probably either you're causing or somebody else wants to aggravate you in some way, and they could do it. And the idea behind that would be that somebody would want to sort of stick a needle into something and aggravate you, or make you angry, or make you judgmental, or make you forceful. In other words, sort of draw out sort of an ugly side that you actually don't have, Libra. You don't have an ugly side, but everybody can get mad if they're pushed far enough. And you could be getting pushed right now, Libra. Now, this might actually do you some good, believe it or not, because maybe this is a good time for you to decide what you are fed up with and end it. And because that Mars is beautifully aspected, it is being trined by the full moon and Pluto on Saturday, and Uranus in Gemini is also trining that Mars. You have a wonderful grand trine in the air signs, and it is more or less protecting you, but it's fierce. I mean, it really means business. And it can have something to do with a financial matter as well. And maybe you've just been coasting along, paying a high price for something that isn't worth it. Maybe you're a little mad at that now. Well, I don't blame you. And so this is a time when if you can be constructive in your criticism, it might do you some good. But if you didn't even want to criticize anybody because you're so fed up that you're just done with something and you're deciding to go in a new direction, that's probably a good idea, Libra. You have a grand trine in the air signs. You could move in a new future direction because that full moon is trining your sun and Mars. And so if you're fed up with somebody, but you sort of want to maintain your cool, and you don't want to make too many waves, and maybe it has been that you have been trying to be calm and understanding, and it just hasn't gotten you anywhere, and now you're deciding to end that too, because it didn't get you anywhere. Well, that's a good idea. I mean, you have a right to your own success. Without other people always sticking the needle in you, or without other people sort of complaining or trying to aggravate you. Libras don't look for enemies, but if they really don't, they believe in peace. But if somebody is aggravating you right now, and they've been doing it for a while, and you're fed up with it, and you've just had it up to here, then now's the time to end it, Libra. And you really can end it. You may have some very good legal reason to end something, because maybe something has been grossly unfair to you. And why should you pay for that? You shouldn't. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, your rulers under this full moon on Saturday are beautifully aspected because they are exactly trining each other. Mars is at 2 degrees in Libra, and it is trining Pluto, your other ruler, which is retrograde at 2 degrees of Aquarius, where the full moon is. So the full moon is trining your ruler as well. This is good for you, Scorpio, because when the ruler or rulers of a sign are in good aspect, generally the sign is in better aspect as well. In other words, things are going okay. Well, something right now, Scorpio, could be going more than okay for you. Lucky you. And the reason why is that this once-in-a-century conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in Cancer both trine your sun. And they are solidly backed up by Uranus and Gemini. And that Uranus doesn't have anything wrong with it. Nothing is squaring or opposing it. But it is backing up that Venus and Jupiter. If you are on the verge, Scorpio, of sort of thinking of something new that you want to do in the future, or something experimental, or something that's a great idea but it hasn't been tried yet, I would suggest that you investigate that further. That could be a red-hot idea or a plan of yours, and perhaps all it takes is funding. Well, Scorpio, whether it's your money or somebody else's, there can be something new on your horizon that is going to be well funded. That's because your rulers are in such good aspect, and they're being backed up by Uranus as well, because they're all in air signs. Air signs are conceptual. They have a lot of ideas. You may be hearing some good ideas from somebody who's just naturally got a lot of vision, and they can see their ideas work, even if they're experimental and they haven't worked yet. They can see down the road. And Scorpio, since yours is a fixed financial sign, maybe you could go ahead and finance something that sounds extremely promising right now. It would have nothing to do with your past. In other words, it's not like you're bringing together staff members that you've worked with before. This would be somebody who's new and just has their own vision, and they probably need somebody who's got a little bit more of their feet on the ground like you, Scorpio, or at least they could develop the vision or the idea, and even if it's experimental, it might be a very good idea. It might work out to something that's of benefit to a lot of communities. Uranus is in Gemini, and that rules communities. But at the same time, Scorpio, yours is a fixed financial sign. You're very good at money management. Maybe somebody who's got a great idea needs a money manager like you, Scorpio. And that's just on a business level or practical level. So, I mean, that would be great for you if it pays off, and it would be great for them too. But on the other hand, Jupiter and Venus in Cancer trining your sun, that's a whole different deal, Scorpio. That is absolutely excellent for you. Because even though there is a harsh T-cross of 5 planets in cardinal signs, and Cancer is a cardinal sign, nothing's touching those planets. Because the planets that are squaring those planets have canceled themselves out. They have no effect on that Jupiter and Venus. But it's having an effect on you and on Pisces, because those planets in Cancer, for the first time this century, are conjuncting Venus and an exalted Uranus at a critical degree, the 13th degree, and they're trining your sun. That's magic. That can bring magic into your life, Scorpio. And it would fulfill you. It would bring you peace. It would bring you more joy than you've had in your whole life. And it would fulfill the times in your life when other people disappointed you or let you down. Jupiter and Venus aren't going to do that. Not in Cancer. Cancer rules our emotions and our feelings, but it not only rules America, but it rules the last half of life and endings. If you are in the last half of life, Scorpio, this once this century conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in Cancer trining your sun may, for the first time in your life, bring you happiness that you had missed before, or the fulfillment of emotional needs that you had even as a child, and it can now fulfill you. And so, Scorpio, pay attention to your feelings now. Cancer rules feelings. Pay attention to the last half of your life, because that's what all of us are going into. We all get older, no matter what. And Cancer rules endings. And so these 2 wonderful planets trining your sun, I think, mean the ending to past sadness and some past mistakes and past disappointments. And it doesn't mean you're going back to your past. That's not it. It means that you can finally find the love or the satisfaction or the emotional compatibility and rapport that will end your past sadness and stay with you for the rest of your life. And that's what I mean by magic. Once this century, and this is the first time this century that that's happened. Don't pass it by, Scorpio. Whatever is your heart's desire, open yourself up to it. Allow it to come to you, because it could do that now. But you have to have your arms open and ready for it. So that's up to you. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius. You know, Sagittarius, there aren't any planets in the mutable signs except one. And it happens to be opposing your sun sign. And that is because there are 4 mutable signs. Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and your sign, Sagittarius. And Uranus is in Gemini for the first time in 83 years, and it is opposing your sun sign. Now, it's only going to do that until the fall, and then it will retrograde and go back into Taurus. And then next year, in 2026, it will come into Gemini, and it will be opposing your sun sign for 7 years. And it will be in its heyday, because it'll be trining the sign it rules, Aquarius. So this full moon in Aquarius on Saturday with Pluto there actually sextiles your sun, Sagittarius. Okay, a sextile represents opportunity. And so you could be facing an opportunity that has something to do with improving your future prospects. Okay, because it's the full moon, the lights, and Pluto. Well, that Pluto is backed up by a trine from Mars, so is the full moon. It's Uranus that's opposing your sun sign, but you have other planets that are sextiling your sun sign, because Mars in Libra is sextiling your sun sign on one side, and the full moon and Pluto are sextiling your sun sign on the other side. So you have opportunities in your life, Sagittarius, either way you turn right now. And so at the very least, it amounts that you're looking at some sort of choice in your life now that you can make. You could go that way or into your future, or you could go that way into some sort of a partnership or a business transaction or something like that. And that might be something that actually needs your attention or needs your fine mind to straighten out. If you're looking at some sort of a legal problem, maybe you could help straighten that out a little bit, Sagittarius, because Mars is sextiling your sun. Now yours is a fire sign. There's 4 planets in fire signs. They're all trining your sun, Sagittarius, but they're all canceled out. They're not going to help you. 3 of the 4 are retrograde, just like they were last week. And so it would be better, Sagittarius, for you to go back and review some of the things in your life that haven't been fair to you. And, you have to maybe think about fixing that. And if you've made 1 or 2 or even more false starts this year, or if somebody has been using you for their own benefit and they've been getting away with it, now is maybe the time for you to cut the ties there, Sagittarius, and go on your own way instead. Because the sun is in Leo along with a retrograde Mercury, but it is being canceled out by that full moon in Aquarius that's opposing it. And so I don't think you're going to get everything you want right now, Sagittarius, but maybe it is more important for you to think instead of steps that you can take. Maybe 1 step or 2 steps in one direction and 1 or 2 steps in another direction that widen your field of opportunity. You might be sitting there thinking that you don't have any opportunity to change things. And I'm saying, yes, you do. You have these opportunities, these planets that are sextiling your sun. And they're powerful. And maybe if you just took a look at, okay, maybe I can't fix everything in my life, but what could I start on right now? What could I start to fix? Or what could I start to end? You could do it, Sagittarius. You don't have to win everything right now, but you do need to start going in a direction that is more fair to you. And so the concentration should be on your needs and what you need. It's not selfish. It may be that somebody's already been using you, and they've been getting away with it. Well, did that do you any good? No. And a good idea to start taking a few steps to end that, Sagittarius. And there could be more than one thing that comes under that heading of being unfair to you. And so now is a little bit of a time to step up, and even if you don't want to, yell and scream at the top of your lungs, if there was a way that you could nullify a legal agreement so that you're not bound by it, maybe this would be a good time to think about how to do that. And you have a good legal mind. Your sign rules international law, actually. And your sign is the sign of the intellect, So Sagittarius, just use your brain a little bit better to try to mitigate some of the unfair things that other people have been doing to you, and change those a little bit so that things are a little bit more in your favor. I think you can do that now without making a big splash. I just think that you can work on that and be successful, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, there aren't any planets in the earth signs right now, Capricorn. Oops. Is it a little bit quiet in your life? Well, maybe that's a good thing, Capricorn. Because there are 2 fantastic planets for the first time this century that are opposing your sun sign. And sometimes in opposition, particularly involving Jupiter and Venus conjuncting each other in Cancer, which is just pure magic and pure goodness. Even in an opposition, it can mean, Capricorn, that there can be some good things that are being presented to you or could be offered to you, but you have to reach out a little bit more to get your hands on them because they're opposing your sun sign. And you can do it if you were looking how to make your home a little bit nicer, or if you were looking to make a move and you were starting to think of, okay, where would I rather live, or how would I rather live, or who do I want to live with, something like that. Cancer rules the home. It rules the last half of life. It rules endings. These two planets are opposing your sun sign, but they're the two best planets in the heavens. And they are magic. They've never happened this century so far. And even in an opposition, they can present wonderful possibilities to you, Capricorn, if you reach out for them. And so this is a time for you to be thinking about that. You know, think about your own needs, your own home, the rest of your life. The Capricorns are going to live a very long time. If you're a little bit unhappy with something in your life, Capricorn, don't stay stuck in it. You don't need to, not with Jupiter and Venus opposing your sun sign, presenting wonderful magic possibilities that all you have to do is reach out for them. You could make a change right now, Capricorn, if you wanted to. It would be a change for the better. You could do it, but you've got to do the work to get there. You've got to do the reaching out. You have to sort of figure things out yourself. But that's never stopped a Capricorn. Capricorns are thinkers. They like to think of every single step. Well, you know, maybe this opposition of Venus and Jupiter in Cancer opposing your sun sign is challenging you to think a new way about where you want to live, or who you want to be with, or how you want to spend the rest of your life. Since you are going to live a very long time, Capricorn, this is a very good time to think about that. And if you're thinking about some changes that you'd like to make, all you have to do is either find out more information or reach out for it a little bit more. Notice I did not mention whether you could afford it or not, because I'm pretty sure you can afford it. Capricorns are careful with their money. They have it. So you could afford it. This is the time when you need to be thinking about something perfect for you. Absolutely. It's perfect for everybody. But it could be perfect for you, Capricorn. Go for it. But you've got to do the heavy lifting. You got to knock on doors. You got to make phone calls. You got to meet people. But why not? Something wonderful is right out there in front of you, Capricorn. All you have to do is reach for it. And it might be better than anything you've ever known. And more emotionally satisfying. And even if you are in some sort of a situation, you could better your situation now if you reached out for it. And that would give you more personal happiness, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time, Aquarius, with the full moon on Saturday in your sign and part of a grand trine in the earth, in the air signs, when I think you can sort of be in seventh heaven or on top of the world or ready to charge forward into the future, Aquarius. I see nothing stopping you. And that is because even though the sun, under full moon, the moon opposes the sun, leading to indecision or confusion, but they're 180 degrees apart, and it indicates a separation. And so, Aquarius, this is the right time for you to leave someone or something behind that has more or less outgrown its value. It's not so important, or it's living in the past, or it's living on its glory days, or something. It's not advancing. And your sign, Aquarius, it always likes to go forward. Because Uranus is your ruler. It is trining your sun right now in Gemini for the first time in 83 years. No, for the first time in 20 years, it's trining your sun. But it's the first time in 83 years that it's been in Gemini. And it isn't going to stay there. It's going to go back in Taurus and actually square your sun in the next year by the end of the summer. And then it's in 2026, it's going in to Gemini for 7 years and will trine your sun. And you really are you're going to fly high, Aquarius. There isn't going to be anything that stops you. It doesn't mean that there can't be. Remember, I said that there's problems that persist. There are people that want to cancel new starts. Or they want to destroy somebody's happiness, And they don't want to move forward. They want to either live in the past, or if they have a tight grip on somebody, they want to keep that tight grip on somebody. Aquarius, your sign rules freedom. You love it. Anybody that's coming down and telling you what to do is really not going to get anywhere, particularly not under that full moon, because there's a grand trine in the air signs. You have backup, Aquarius. You have stronger backup than you have had in years. You really do. And that is because Uranus hasn't been trining your sun for 20 years, but it is now. And it's not being challenged by anything. It's sort of home free. It can do what it wants. And that's your ruler. That's always good. And then Mars in Libra, which is a tough planet, and it means business, and it charges forward, is in Libra, and it's trining your sun, where you have the full moon and Pluto. Well, Mars and Pluto are both at the same degree, 2 degrees, and they rule Scorpio. There can be some more money coming your way, Aquarius. And it can be coming through some kind of funding that comes your way. And it could be funding for a new idea that you have. Aquarians are full of new ideas. It rules invention. It rules things ahead of their time. And we are entering, after this full moon in Aquarius in your sign, we are entering this once this century time when all 3 lights in America's chart are being highlighted at the same time. As far as I know, that hasn't happened. I don't actually know of another time that that's happened, but I don't know what's happened since 1776. Maybe that happened once before, but I'm not too sure about that. This is a magic time for America. And America's moon is in your sign, Aquarius, and you're having the full moon in your sign. You're going to be a little bit more closely connected to something that has to do with America's future in one way or another. If you don't have the great idea right now, it'll come to you, Aquarius, or you'll be able to follow up on it. And somebody's going to come around and probably be glad to pay for that. You know, Mars is trining Pluto. And Scorpio rules funding and financing. I do not suggest that anybody go into debt. Don't do that. Look around for somebody to back your good idea, Aquarius. You could find that. You could find somebody like that right now. So I would say that even though the Sun and Mercury in Leo are opposing your sun sign where you have the full moon, it simply means that the planets are so exactly opposing each other that they cancel each other out. So you don't have to worry about that. Somebody else wants to be the leader and tell you what to do. They're not going to succeed at that, Aquarius. They really aren't. They ought to give up. They're not going to ever succeed at that. And then there are no planets in the earth signs, but there are in the air signs. And so if you're sort of flying on a wing and a prayer right now, Aquarius, and you're just going by what you can see out there in front, I would say keep going. Follow that. Follow your vision. Uranus will go back into Taurus, but it's going to be there by the fall and stay for a year. Okay, so you won't have all the money right away, but starting in 2026 you will. So if no matter what idea you have, even if you think people are going to think it's crazy, go for it, Aquarius. Really do it. And besides, the full moon's in your sun sign. There will be a lot of light on you. If you're thinking, oh, I can't do anything about my great idea right now, write it down, Aquarius. Write it down. You can always come back and tinker with it and polish it a little bit and get it ready to present to other people. But don't lose a good idea now, Aquarius. Your whole future depends on it, so keep going. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, I'm sorry to say, I told y'all at the start of this show that it was going to be a long show because this is a magic time. And you know, Pisces, it's really going to benefit you. So they say, you know, save the best for last. Well, that might describe about where you are right now, Pisces. Because Jupiter and Venus are conjuncting and they're going to be tightly conjuncting by Saturday when the full moon is in Aquarius, which is right behind your sun sign. So there's going to be a lot of light in the background of your life, Pisces. You can see your future pretty clearly this coming weekend. And Venus and Jupiter in that tight conjunction on the critical 13th degree, trining your sun. It's going to be an eye-opener for you, Pisces. You'll see exactly, almost like magic, something that you had been doubting, something that you didn't think you were ready for, something that had been bothering you. In other words, okay, all of these sort of obstacles or reasons why something wouldn't work, that you could be they could be scattered throughout your life somewhere, Pisces. None of that's going to matter. None of it. There is happiness coming to you, Pisces. And the happiness is coming in a very simple way. Very simple. It'll be at home. Or it'll be with somebody that you're sort of comfortable with, and you're thinking, well, yeah, why don't we stick together for the rest of our lives? Venus-Jupiter conjunction is a marriage tie. And it trines your sun, Pisces. And you know, Pisces, with once in this century conjunction trining your sun and the Scorpio sun, you cannot afford to turn your back on that. Because it isn't going to happen again. You know, next year Jupiter won't be in Cancer, and Venus will be zooming around because it's a much faster planet anyway. And so, you know, Pisces, think about it. Maybe something isn't going to be perfect, but something that has almost nothing to do with your past. No past disappointments, no past mistakes, no nothing. It's that you can be, since that full moon is in Aquarius and that rules the future, and it's right behind your sun sign on this weekend, on Saturday actually. It just means that you've got to look at how you can go forward in the happiest way at home. Cancer rules the home, and it rules the last half of life, and it rules endings. So, and since yours is a double-bodied sign, something can be ending, maybe even two things, because this is a year of false starts. You can have more than one thing ending this year. And even now, as something is ending, that's a relief for you. That's like, oh, the weight is off my shoulders. I don't have to deal with that anymore. So that's going to be a relief for you. But something that is coming is pure joy. And the satisfaction and the joy that you keep in your tender little heart, Pisces. Maybe you're not going to be talking about that so loudly. Maybe because it's so important to you. That it only involves you and somebody else. And together, and you and somebody else really understand each other. There's a lot of compatibility there, and that's because it's the first time this century that has happened, and it's trining your sun. And you know, Pisces, don't dream it away. Do something about it. The conjunction won't last. Venus is so fast, it's going to move on. But this is the first time this century that Venus and Jupiter have conjuncted in Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted. Somebody who's maybe, you know, they're just around, or even maybe you haven't met them yet, but you'll know them when you see them. And there may not be too many words spoken. It's magic. I can only describe it as magic. It's not anything you have to argue about. You may never argue. It's just two souls that are so agreeable that there's not going to be any fighting. There may not even be too much talking. It's just perfect. Magic. And it's headed your way. And don't you dream it away, Pisces. It's a golden opportunity for you. Probably not due to come again. Ever. It's so rare. And it doesn't involve whatever or whoever you've had or known in your past. It involves somebody who's just perfect for you. And perfect doesn't mean that you're perfect, and it doesn't mean that they're perfect either. But chemistry is the chemistry is there. Together, you're perfect. Who could ask for anything more, Pisces? So I hope you go for it, and good luck. If ever the stars were shining down on from heaven on you, Pisces, and on Scorpio, and on Cancer, it's now. And so, good luck. I wish you the best. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thank you very much for the new subscribers, and I hope you tell your friends about the show, and I'll see you right back here next week. I'm sorry the show was so long, but I couldn't shorten it anymore. This is a magic time, a great awakening for all of us. So good luck. Bye.